Welcome to the Tailoring Talk Show with your host, Roberto Rivilla. I'm a bespoke tailor, menswear designer, and owner of Roberto Rivilla London Custom Clothing and Footwear. I activate your superpowers through the clothing I create and the conversations on this podcast. We'll meet self-starters and creators to learn about their journeys while they share valuable lessons to help you be the very best you can be. Please support the show by subscribing, and it helps so much if you take a few seconds to leave a rating and a review. I don't even know where to begin introducing today's guest. She's the best-selling author of The 5-Day Job Search, which dives into how you can become an industry expert that others seek advice from. You're going to join me for the ride as we discover her amazing personal journey, teach you how to master your own personal branding, and tie this into the fashion and professional image, and show you how to amplify your personal brand through your presentation and fashion sense. Tailoring Talkers, please welcome the enormously multi-skilled and multi-talented Annie Margarita Yang to the show. Annie, how are you?
Roberto, thank you so much for having me on Tailoring Talk. You've really hyped me up. I sure hope I live up to your expectations today.
Of course you will. So the first thing I want to mention is we have something kind of slightly in common. You have your YouTube channel, which is absolutely awesome. 18.2 thousand subscribers now, which is brilliant. I have 182 subscribers.
Oh my God. I thought you were about to say 182,000. Sorry about that.
I wish.
Okay.
I'm like 0.1% of the way there. But yeah. So I thought, but a couple of decimal places. There's some synergy there. Anyway, I look up to you. I'm inspired, and at some point I will learn how to propel my show forward. But thank you for joining me all the way from Boston, one of my favorite cities in the US of A.
You're welcome. I mean, Boston is certainly really gorgeous and a very historical city. It's one of the oldest in the United States. It's where people settled. So I really love it here. It's got a lot of charm.
Yeah, you can see a lot of the British influence on the architecture. And
correct.
I think that's probably why Brits love it so much when we visit, because we're sort of looking at it, we're like, oh my God, this kind of looks a little bit like home.
It's literally called New England.
yeah, exactly. That's it. Now, are you Boston native, or were you born there, or did you find your way there through?
No,
let's get into your
I'm
origin story.
I'm from New York City, born and raised Brooklyn, New York.
See, now you say that, now I hear the Brooklyn.
Oh, how? You can tell now?
Yeah, just as when you said Brooklyn, New York.
Ah, I see. Well, yeah, from Brooklyn, New York. My parents are Chinese immigrants, working class from China. I was first born here. Just had that classic stereotypical Asian childhood. Parents really honed in on education, making sure I had straight A's all throughout school. But what's fascinating about my story is I didn't go straight to college after high school. Whereas a lot of Asian Americans, you would think they're pushed, especially here in the United States, to go to an Ivy League or a really expensive, elite, prestigious university after they finish high school. I didn't do that. I went straight into working minimum wage jobs, all sorts of things, doing cashiering work, slicing deli meats, some bookkeeping work. Yeah. And then I eventually did get my bachelor's degree in communications. But after that, I was living in the middle of nowhere in Texas with hardly any job opportunity. So I was working at Domino's Pizza with my college degree. Wow. So, it's not always that golden ticket that people make it out to be, even though it's like this common thing that they always hone into, right? Finally, I moved to Boston, which I love. I've always wanted to move to Boston since I was a kid. And I really wanted to make my mark here.
Awesome. See, now that you've really opened up, the Brooklyn is really coming through.
How so? Is it RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg? She's Jewish. She's originally from Brooklyn, New York as well. And I feel like she's got that ambition that kind of thing, that spunk. She has a certain
Yeah.
spunk, especially when she was young. I actually really look up to her and I model after her, I think.
No, it's fantastic. Listen, I've spent a lot of time in New York. I love the city. Yeah, Jersey, Brooklyn accents, it's
Yeah.
right up my street. No, that's amazing. I wanted to ask you about community college. What was that like?
Wow, you really did your research on me. Yeah. Um, I actually didn't enjoy my time at community college because I'll be very honest, I'm very intelligent. I do very well in school. I don't need to be pushed. I don't need to be held accountable. I'm the
Yeah,
kind of person that can just sit down and read a book. Don't need to be told to read a book, right?
yeah,
And community college, it's like really affordable. So that's a great thing because my family is poor. We can't really afford that much. But I, I, I want to say good things and bad things. I mean, there was a small class size. Something I realized about community college is like the standard class size where I was is like 25 students,
yeah,
whereas my husband, he's at BU right now. He's doing his PhD, and those class sizes are like large lectures. So you hardly get any individual attention from the professor. So I love that I got so much individual attention from my professors, right? But I feel like the expectations were very low. Like the standards were really low. I remember I had one English professor who kept like harping on us bringing a certain book to class by a certain date in that semester. And I packed the book. I did my homework, right? But after doing my homework, I forgot to pack the book again into my bag and I forgot to bring it to class. And she was just so upset, right? And she was saying things like, well, if you didn't bring your book today, I'm marking you absent. So even if you participate, you're going to get an absence. And so then I walked out of the class. I was like, what's the point? I mean, she's starting all this drama. I'm here to learn. We can always just share the book with the person next to us. But she just said, even if you participate, you're going to get a 0 for participation today. So I just walked out. I couldn't handle it. I didn't like it.
yeah.
So while I got my associate's degree from community college, I actually ended up testing out of my bachelor's degree. So the way I did my bachelor's degree was I found out there's 3 universities in the entire United States where you can take standardized exams that are like equivalent to final exams of a semester. And if you pass those exams, you can transfer the pass grade in and get credit for it. So these exams were like only $90. And I took like, I think a quarter of my entire bachelor's degree was just from testing out. I just sat down, studied, tested out, and I just transferred them in. And I finished my bachelor's degree in only 2 years. I finished it the same time I finished my associate's degree.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then where did the spark for the book come from? Because the audience that you serve largely are Gen Zers, millennials. I'm a cusper, so I'm just on that cusp of Gen X and millennial. And I kind of narrowly avoided the whole student debt thing because we had free education all the way through sort of college level. We call it university over here. And at the point where it was time for me to go, the government introduced, they took away the whole fee-free scheme. So suddenly we had to pay. So I had to take
in the UK.
in the
Really?
UK, yeah.
Oh wow.
So I took a year out because also, kind of very similar to you, working class background, all the rest of it, parents are immigrants, that sort of thing. And so I took a year out to work and to try and earn the money so that I could pay my way through college. And then I think I started and I managed to do about a month at college. And then as well as kind of pressures externally because of our financial situation and so on. Also at the same time, because Annie's
I
just
love it.
Annie's just met my cat. He was trying to get my attention down there and I was so focused on you. And when I focus on something like most cats, he's now decided to mess around with the very thing that is taking my attention away from me. Anyway, I'm so sorry. This is Frankie, by the way.
Frankie.
He's an asshole. Sorry, what was I talking about?
Talking about how you did a month.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
But then I kind of thought, well, I could just be sort of earning money because all I'm doing here is really not learning anything that I was finding really useful or practical. And every day that I was sat there, I was basically just, the debt total was going to start going up.
Yeah.
And I just really couldn't see the point. And, I guess I come from an entrepreneurial background. My dad ran his own business. My grandfather ran his own business. We're both Asian, just slightly different parts of the Asian subcontinent. But the attitude is the same, right?
Well, that's the Asian, not the Asian attitude, but the immigrant attitude. The kind
too.
of like hustle.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I did. And even when I was at college, I was still running the part-time jobs that I had. So the jobs that I had while I had my gap year, I basically just reduced them all to part-time. And then I was just fitting them around everything else that I was doing. So that's kind of what happened. So I kind of get things from that point of view. But anyway, now long-winded, you'll get used to this. We go back to my question, which was, where did the spark for the book come from, and what was that process like for you?
Which book, though? The 5-Day Job Search. This second book. This is my second book. I had a first book as well. Yeah, called 1001 Ways to Save Money. So this book, the second book, the spark.
I'm talking. Yeah. So my question was about the second book, but no, let's talk about that first book.
Oh,
quickly before we talk about the second book.
Okay.
So you wrote a first book? I thought you just wrote the one book.
Yeah, I wrote that when I was in community college as well.
Where the hell did I miss that?
Well,
so you're okay. 1001 Ways to Save Money. Great title.
Right. Well,
did that also coincide with one of your YouTube videos? Has like
no. That YouTube video came long after. This book was
the one that blew up.
That one that blew up came like just when I moved to Boston. I said, I'm sick and tired. I just worked at Domino's Pizza, and all these people on YouTube were saying you can save money on minimum wage, but they were saying things like, stop buying Starbucks, stop buying candles, stop buying flowers. And then I was like, I've been living minimum wage. I'm so frugal, and I've never bought a candle in my life. Never bought flowers in my life. You can't give me this advice. It doesn't work, right? So that actually came much later, but the book came first. It was like 2 years earlier. The book is actually, when I was in community college, I had already known that I want to help people with their finances. I want to help people become financially independent. Even though I myself was earning minimum wage, I said, I'm going to find a way to become wealthy myself. And I'm also going to find a way to make sure that other people follow my footsteps and also become wealthy. I'm not wealthy right now. I'm on my way, right? But that was something I wanted back then. And there's no such thing as a degree with a major in personal finance. It doesn't exist, right? Like
Absolutely.
Coming out, if you get a finance degree, you work in Wall Street, trading stocks and stuff. You're not actually helping people with their finances personally, like how to budget, how to manage your money. So I was like, kind of like, wanted to role model after Dave Ramsey. Like, he doesn't have a degree in personal finance, but somehow he's made it. He has a radio show and everything. And he's changed millions of lives with what he does. And I figure, okay, since I have a communications degree, which is something I can use to communicate with people what I'm doing, right? But what about the actual like personal finance part, like the contents? And I'm just like looking for different solutions, and I'll go anywhere. I'll meet anyone, right? And one time I came across this free event called the Small Business Expo in the Javits Center in New York. And so I went to that free event, and I just walked into the sales pitch. This guy was part of Jerry Roberts' company. They were like pitching a workshop called Publish a Book and Grow Rich. It was like this really high pressure sales tactic that they were using on people, that if you buy the workshop now, we'll reduce the price from like 1,000 to only 97. But wait, if you buy it right now, not only it'll be 97, it'll be like, get one ticket for you and get a second ticket for free for your friend, right? So I turned to the person next to me, total stranger. I said, are you interested? She's like, yeah. I was like, well, I don't want to pay 97. You want to like just split it in half, and I'll call you my friend and we can go together. She's like, yeah, we can do that. So I really paid only like 47 for that, And I took that workshop on how to publish a book in only 40 hours. And they were talking about how like there's this whole system. You write an outline, and you just like ask questions for each outline. Let's say it's a 10 chapter outline. Each chapter has 10 points. Now figure out 3 questions of each point that people will have. And then you just literally answer the question.
Yeah.
And there you have your book, right? So I'm thinking like, okay, I need a quick and easy book. 1001 Ways to Save Money. Because I was really good at it. I lived on minimum wage. I was really good at saving money. And it's the one topic I knew most, enough to write a whole book on it. So that's
because you'd been living and breathing it yourself, right?
Yeah. So that's exactly what I did. And the presenter for that workshop, they were saying like, you don't write a book to grow rich. Like you don't grow rich from selling books. You grow rich from like building authority. So if you write a book, all of a sudden people see you as credible and like you have authority on a subject, like you're some sort of expert in your industry. And here I was like only 22 years old. I'm like, is this really true? I don't know if this is legit, but okay, I'll give it a shot. And it is true because after I wrote that book, I didn't have any sales, no sales at all. But I moved to Boston and I said, I'm going to get an accounting job with no accounting degree. And I started applying to 50 jobs a day. And after a whole week of doing that, I got an accounting job. So what got people's attention when I walked in the interview, I even pointed out, like, I don't have an accounting degree. Like, I'm not qualified to be here, just so you know, so that you're not upset to find out later that, like, maybe you shouldn't have hired me, right? But they were like, no, you're an author. Is this, like, legit? Are you, like, really an author? Like, this is so interesting. We've never met an author before. And then I was like, okay, if you want to go with that, we could talk about that, So
yeah, well, I guess for them, right, is that, for them, an author, you're a bona fide celebrity, right?
Yeah.
It's that same kind of thing that I get with I haven't written a book yet. Robin Lander, who I interviewed a while ago, if you don't know Robin, you definitely need to meet her. She's from your neck of the woods. She's based, I think she lives quite close to Broadway, actually. In New York. And so anyway, so I guess it's a similar kind of thing, right? Because I'll get people come into my workroom for a fitting for the first time ever.
Right.
And then they come around the corner and then they see me down the end because it's a very long workroom and you've got sewing machines running all the way down and workbenches and stuff. And they'll see me and they'll be like, oh my God. And I go up and shake them hand. Hey, I'm Roberto. Welcome. How are you?
Yeah.
And they're like, I wasn't expecting to see you.
Why?
Like, well,
they think you're a celebrity? Like they see you as
I was listening to your podcast on the way in. I was like,
I see.
And I'm just like, what? Really? I like your one. Okay, well, if you think so, let's just go with that. Sorry. Anyway, I interrupted you.
Yeah.
But it, that gives you kind of a bit of that kind of star power, right?
Yeah, it gave me that kind of like authority in my early 20s. And then I'm like, they don't really take me that seriously, do they? Like this is literally just a book that I wrote because I attended some workshop and they were telling me that you don't get rich from book sales. People just suddenly see you as credible. And I'm here like, I haven't worked on my fashion sense yet at that time. I still felt like very much a teenager in an adult's body, right? Because I never learned how to dress myself properly up to that point. And so I felt like, are they really considering what I'm having to say? Do they really want to listen to me? Yeah. But this book, the second book, the 5-Day Job Search, is more about like what came after that first book. After I started building authority, and then did the YouTube channel. And then that wasn't even like the first time I got an accounting job with no accounting degree. I got it 3 times. So for 3 separate job searches, I got an accounting degree in only less than a week. The last one took only 5 days. And, I make good money, right? Yeah. And that's without the degree. So I figure, why is it that so many people don't know how to make money? They don't know how to ask for a raise. They don't know how to land a job quickly. Apparently, the average job search takes 6 months, which I was shocked by when I learned that. And then I was like, why is it that there's so many other people far more qualified, capable than me, right? They have done so much more than me. All I did was I wrote this little book, honestly, I wouldn't say I've done like crazy life-changing world impact things as other people, but I've been able to present myself in a way that I'm the one that gets called for opportunity without even trying. Yeah. I get like handed opportunity. Like back in February someone offered me a part-time CFO position. Like he's just, why are people throwing stuff at me literally, whereas other people are struggling. I didn't get why. And so that's why I wrote the 5-day job search, because I think there are skills that people can learn.
Yeah. Do you think part of the reason why because it's not just luck, right? I mean, you are obviously very confident. The other thing I like about you is you're as straight as an arrow. Like there is no BS with you whatsoever.
Okay.
And I don't think you'd be the sort of person who'd be afraid to say something for what it is, right? Rather than what we have to put up with all the time around here, which is people like to kind of talk in circles all the time.
They're very
And then,
polite.
oh God, yeah, too polite. And then they can't handle anyone that is really, like straightforward or is just kind of blanket telling it how it is. But then also, you have this background of having grown up with hard shit and then having gotten used to sort of hustling as well. Because again, it's like I think back to times where, I didn't get my college degree. Sometimes I do have a tinge of regret that I didn't do that because
you're successful.
Exactly, right?
Because if you think business,
there you go, which right, earning a good income, all the rest of it, which is what where most people want to get to. It's just people who have degrees. It's because of security and all that kind of thing. Do you think people that kind of sit around on the jobs market for an average 6 months or more, it's because they're waiting for opportunity to come to them, rather than people like you and me, where we won't sit still for 2 seconds. If something's happened, we lose a job, something changes, circumstances change, we'll then go, right, okay, what can we do here?
Yeah, you adapt, right? I remember during the pandemic when we had no access to anything, couldn't go out to do anything, couldn't get access to masks because of supply chain issues, especially because we import from China, and China, of course, was locked down, right? Couldn't get any masks anywhere. I know how to sew as well. Right. I had a sewing machine and I figured, okay, well, no one can get masks, but we have fabric. We have Joann's fabric. So I bought like a whole bunch of fabric from Joann's and I made 400 masks to give away. Like what I think is people are so focused on where they went to school rather than building skill. Like prior to the pandemic, I knew how to sew. I knew how to cut hair. So I didn't even have to go to a hair salon. Other people who couldn't go to a hair salon, I said, I'd be happy to cut your hair for you while you're waiting for the hair salon to open, So I think it's a matter of like, you need to have skill that's actually valuable, useful. Sewing is one of them, right? People don't know how to make things anymore. And I think it's also a matter of just being able to adapt, because if you just wait for things to happen, they never will. You in particular, you remind me of my friend. His name's Isaac. He's just like Jewish business owner in Brooklyn, real hustler, real hard worker. And when the pandemic started, all the schools were shut down. And what he does is he owns a school bus company. So of course, there's no business. And I was like, Isaac, how are you going to like survive? How are you going to make money and put food on the table? He's like, oh, I very quickly got something related to trucking. Like I was like in less than a week, he already like figured out a solution and already adapted, and it didn't impact his cash flow at all.
Well, that's the thing, because the door shut for all of us, right? And there were those that were like, oh, okay, well, we'll just wait for this to finish at some point. And, at the beginning, we thought it was going to be over in a couple of weeks, right? We didn't realize it was going to go on for nearly 2 years. And there are other people who, like you, oh, okay, so people need masks. China's shut down. I can sew. I can get fabric from Joann's. I'm going to make masks. There we go. Yeah. Your friend Isaac, who had a school bus, suddenly it's not being used for carting children around because all the schools are shut. So he's just like, well, stuff's still got to be transported around somehow. And I have a bus, but we'll just call it a truck now. And I'll just go do that. And, same for me. I was like, okay, so my business is closed. People aren't buying suits at the moment. People probably don't even want to talk to me because they're going to be worried about whatever the hell is going. What the hell do I do? Okay, well, who's hiring at the moment? Deliveroo, Uber, all these food delivery companies. How do those guys get around? They get around on scooters. I own a Vespa. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to apply to them while just to give myself some breathing space, bring a little bit of money to the table. It was below minimum wage, like it was way lower than I would
But you
normally
were
earn.
willing to work.
But
You
I
were
was
willing
willing
to
to go
work.
and yeah, I had so many people, sometimes. So when I first started, I ended up the other side of London, and I was in Brick Lane, I remember, and I went to pick up someone's order from a donut shop. And so I'm walking back to my bike, and I've got the kind of Uber uniform on and everything.
Yeah.
And my bike was sign written with my business. So I'm walking back to the bike. I see one of my clients walking past with his wife, and I just kind of held back because I was like, "Oh my God, please!" I wanted the ground
Are
to
you
swallow me up.
embarrassed?
I was like, "Please, I do not want them to see me."
I
Right?
see.
And he stops and looks at the bike because it was bright orange, because everything I do has got to be so people have put all eyes on me, right? And then so he's looking, he's like, this is Bobby's bike, like, where, because all my clients call me Bobby. And he's like, so then he starts looking around, then he sees me, and I'm kind of like, oh, hi, yeah, it's me. And he was like, "Oh, wow, you're dead." And I was like, "Yeah, my business is closed, so this just gives me some time to think and put food on the table, whatever." Like literally. Um, and so uh, he said to me, "Wow," he said, "You know what? I couldn't do what you've done.
Could or could not?
Could not."
Could not.
He
Well,
said, "I could not do what you."
you swallowed your pride.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You swallowed your pride and you put like your physical needs first, which I think is the right thing to do. It doesn't matter
So
what your pride is. Work is
yeah,
work. Whatever the pay is, whatever the perception people have of you in society, like what you're doing is an honest living. You're serving people through delivering food. There's nothing wrong with that. The pay is low, but that's okay. You're not relying on the government
yeah,
to help you out. A lot of what
exactly.
happened to people is they relied on the government to help them out. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. One just short story I'll tell you just because it's funny. When I was younger, so I've been doing this for 20 years, and when I was younger, people used to ask me to, pick a pair of pants up from their office to get the hems. And it's like, that's a complete waste of time. I can just send a messenger to pick that up and, do that. I'm not going to spend an hour. And one of the favorite things I used to say is I'm not a pizza delivery boy. And I remember running into one of my clients. Actually, I was delivering to his home, and knocked on the door, kind of very sheepishly, kind of stepped back, like, and he opened the door and he's like, "Bobby?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh my God." And then he obviously had remembered what I used to say to him like 10, 15 years before. And he's like, "I guess you really are a pizza delivery boy now." It's like, asshole. Anyway, so I deserved it though. So the thing about the book, the 5-day job search, it's written in a very economical manner, which now that I've kind of met you and got to hang out with you for kind of 30, 40 minutes now, um, I'm guessing you've just written it the way that you would speak if the reader was sat with you, right?
My God, you're like so intuitive and on point. Yes, I actually wrote this book in only 10 days. Much of it, I'm not sure what your religious beliefs are, right? But me, I'm like a blend of Christian and Buddhism, right?
Yeah.
And maybe New Agey kind of thing. It's like whatever works for me, I will use it, right?
Yeah.
I'm really intuitive. I can hear voices in my head. A lot of the voices come out to be true. They're not in my own sound, my own voice in my head. And one night while trying to go to sleep, I could hear this voice, this is back in November, saying, "You gotta write your next book. I don't want to write my next book. Please go find someone else to write this book." And they were like, no. You must write this book. You were born to write this book. It's your calling. You must do it. No one else can write this book but you. Even if someone else can write this book, no one's going to market the book. No one's willing to put in the work to market, promote, and sell the book like you are going to do, Annie. So you got to write this book. And they just went on and on and on. Like, this book needs to say this, 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 and this. Like, it was literally handed to me, right? And so finally I got up and I recorded down everything that I was being told, and I went to bed at 4 a.m. Same thing happened the next night. This is what needs to be in the book, blah, 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 blah. And this went on for like 10 nights. I recorded everything that I heard that needed to be in this book into my iPhone. And then I transcribed it with AI and I turned it into a manuscript, basically. Yeah.
Wow.
So the whole thing was spoken.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. Wow. And it's, you know, the other thing with the book is, again, it's same. I haven't read it through yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it's in my shopping cart in my Amazon thing, right, by the way. I know that the Amazon are giving it for free on Kindle Unlimited. But I kind of like to have physical copies, especially if
I
it's
can mail you a
that
physical book. I'll even sign it and mail it to you personally. It's okay.
Okay.
It won't cost me
Thank
anything.
you.
Yeah,
Well, do you know what I'm gonna? Okay, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna buy it anyway.
Yeah.
And then when I get your one, I'll keep that for myself, and I'm gonna give my copy to somebody who needs it.
You can do that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then I'll tell them to buy it and pass it on to someone so that we don't lose a sale. But you see, hustling. So, but you see, your journey with regards to, you know, how you kind of become someone who attracts employers boils down to really kind of working out at the core what you stand for, what your principles are, what your well, I guess personal brand is as well. So that it's so clear when you walk through the door that so again, in your case, like, you walked into that accounting firm, it's like, hey, I just want to get the elephant out of the room because it's going to come out down the road, but look, I don't have any accounting qualifications, right? But because you'd already done the groundwork with the book and so on and established yourself as an authority figure in that regard, they're just like, we don't care, you're an author. Right?
Well, yeah, it's not just being able to call yourself an author. People, look, that book took me only three months. It took me 3 months to write that book because of the system that I followed. But a lot of people, they have in their head this idea that, oh, if you wrote a book, like this new book took me only 10 days to write, okay? Yeah. A lot of people in their head think like, oh, you wrote a book. It must have taken you a year, 2 years, maybe 5 years to write this book. It must have been like this huge endeavor, just like training for a marathon. They have this concept in their head. They don't actually, because they've never written a book, they don't know what it's like. So that's their perception of it. So they're thinking like writing a book must be so much harder than finishing a college degree, which normally takes 4 years, sometimes 6 years for people, right? So they come in and they're thinking like, she must be disciplined. That's the perception. It's not just like she must have authority, but she must be someone who's like really disciplined. And when she sets her mind to doing something, she can follow through. Yeah. She can commit to doing something. That's the kind of perception you build as well. It's not just like authority. Yeah. Yeah.
But then, see, this brings me on to another branding point, is that with you, the things you've just described, it's not perception. It is who you are and how you are. You are that type of person. I'm willing to bet my house that is true of you, even though we've only known. Yeah, right. There we go. Yeah. See? And, you know, that's the one thing about branding, and I'd love to get your take on it. But I kind of came up with, you know, because people always get branding and marketing mixed up and all that sort of stuff. And for me, branding is about if you think of branding or think of a person as a jam jar, what's on the label needs to match what's on the inside. So if you're saying you're coming in as a jam jar with arms and legs, right? And you're saying, I'm strawberry jam. And they're like, okay, great. Well, we're looking for strawberry jam right now. But then you get in and they open you up, they pop the lid off, and there's like apricot jam on the inside, well, then there's going to be a really big problem. Annie, I'm a really visual person, okay?
I love it. I love it.
It's
I
like
love your
Disney.
analogy.
I think of everything in animation and stuff. Anyway, sorry. It's probably why I do the job that I do. But if they pop the lid and it's like, oh, it's apricot jam, then you got a really big problem, right?
Yeah.
But if they pop the lid and it's like, there is strawberry jam here. Oh my God, this person actually is what they said and what they portray themselves to be. They're in alignment with who they are and who they say they are. And I think for me personally, that's really important. How do you kind of feel about that?
No, I
Once
agree.
you picked yourself off the floor over my analogy.
I agree with that. Like, that is literally how I live my life. When I was, well, I haven't said it on every podcast, and most podcast hosts wouldn't know this unless I bring it up or they read the book. But in chapter 10 about hitting rock bottom, like my rock bottom was when I was 19. Because I didn't go straight to college, I ended up working those minimum wage jobs. One of the things my abusive, manipulative ex-boyfriend at the time told me I should do to make quick and easy money is I should become a foot fetish model. And he said, there's nothing sexual about this at all. I found this on Craigslist. This is the website. And then you go on.
Oh, yeah, because Craigslist is the bastion of,
right.
you know.
You go on the site and you see like these photos of like half naked women showing their feet in very sexual positions, right? And I'm like, I mean, the site says there's nothing sexual. It's just letting men touch your feet. $40 for 10 minutes. I mean, I guess I'll give it a try, so long as it's not sexual, because my personal value is I always wanted to save my virginity for my future husband. So that's what I wanted. So I went and did it because there was supposedly no sex involved. But those parties were definitely a front for prostitution. Like, there's a back room where anything goes. 2 times I went in that back room. It was way beyond feet. I wouldn't say I was raped, but I was definitely in for a shock there at 19 years old. And I left from the third party. I took the train home at 4 a.m. on the MTA. And I was like so broken. I was like, Jesus, did I just violate my own personal values for $40? Really? Did I do that? Am I that cheap?
Yeah.
Like this is, it's in the Bible itself. Like Judas, when he betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, right? And he regret turning Jesus in, right? And he said, I'll give you the silver back. And they were like, we don't want your silver. To hell with that, right?
By that time, that was it. It was too late. The damage had been done.
He did it, damage is done. You can't take it back and say, here, take my money back. I don't want my money. I want to reverse everything. No. So it's kind of like that similar situation, how I felt, right? I couldn't go back. So I decided from then and there, whatever I do has to be in line, no matter what, with my own personal values. If an employer is asking me to do something that I don't want to do, I will be very straight with them. If you're going to keep pushing me to do this, I will resign. I don't care if this will affect me financially. I will find another job where they respect me. So that experience like really left this impression on me, like going forward, no matter what, everything has to be from my own desire.
Yeah.
And I don't care what other people think,
Yeah. Wow. I'm getting all the feels right now, and I have so much admiration for you, really. Like, you're already my hero. I'm kind of going through a little bit of this journey at the moment. I was really proud of myself because I said no to someone this morning in a nice way, but what they were asking me to do just did not align with what I've been working out recently are the things that I stand for and the things that I won't tolerate. And, to hear you say that, people can't see this unless they're watching the video, but I'm bowing to Annie right now. So you mentioned something a little while back about kind of your fashion sense and the way that you dress and so on. Now you come to me today, and certainly all of the pictures that I've seen of you online and so on. God, that sounded so weird. You look amazing. Like, the way that you dress and so on, fantastic. What kind of how did you kind of get to your sort of sense of personal style today? I mean, what for you, describe your personal style.
I would say it's really classy and elegant. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I like. A lot of the kind of styles I like, I admit, are quite luxurious. I don't like to pay top dollar for my clothes. I like to buy secondhand or on a discount from TJ Maxx. But the kind of like little styles that I like for example, a quilted fabric. I noticed that's kind of like really luxurious looking, you
Yeah.
know. I like that. I like cashmere. I like wool. When I wear a t-shirt, for example, not just knit, but it has to be ribbed knit. I notice I really like texture for my
Yeah.
clothes. I don't like these loud prints. Everything has to be like a really solid color, but it has to have this really like subtle texture that just screams
Yeah.
expensive. You know,
Yeah.
that's how I would describe my style today. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think so again, when we think about, you as a person and you in what you do and how you work with people, the fact that you are, you know, I guess kind of very clean in the way that you do things because you are so direct and unfiltered almost. Would you say that your clothing is kind of a natural extension of that?
Of course.
Yeah.
Because I would say I'm like such a black and white person in my
Yeah.
personality. I'm actually working really hard to see the nuance and the gray. My husband complains that I don't see the gray and the subtleties in different things in life, right? I'm very much like it's a yes or it's a no, like either or. There's no like in between with me. My clothes are also like that, right? Very solid colors as well, very simple, clean
Yeah.
cut, very tailored as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing loose about my clothes either. Like everything you see me wear is very much tight, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm as you can see today a little bit more eclectic, but it varies depending on my mood because I'm quite a mood person. It's probably something to do with being an Aquarian if you're into that sort of stuff. But but yeah, I find this kind of topic of conversation quite fascinating. I mean, obviously because it's what I do for a living every single day of the week, but especially when I meet someone who's new. Um, if you were talking to someone who's just kind of out of college, starting to kind of find their way in the corporate world, maybe not feeling so confident, where would you start to kind of steer them in terms of trying to find, their trying to work out what their personal brand is first of all, and then kind of marrying outer with inner, if that makes sense?
Yeah. The first thing is to think about your story. Like, who are you? Who are your parents? What's your lineage? I think another huge thing is a lot of people these days, they fall into victim mentality. Like, look at me, I'm Asian, therefore there's a bamboo ceiling. Asians are known as shy. We don't get opportunity because we're Asian, we're a minority in this country, blah, blah, blah. Like all sorts of these labels we have. Now we don't have just men and women, we have beyond men and women as well, right? Look at all these identity labels that we can apply to ourselves. So I think the first thing is to think, what are these identities that you can't change? I can't change the fact that I'm female, Asian American. My age makes me a millennial. I can't change that fact. But you have to work with what you have, right? I didn't have everything handed to me. So that's my story. I didn't have everything handed to me. I have these labels attached to me. What can I turn this into? How far can I go? I want to see how far I can go. If I work really hard and I'm disciplined, can my dreams come true? Like people love those kinds of stories. They don't want to see well, not all white people are rich, right? But a rich white male, who was handed everything in his childhood also have like a success story. Like that's there's nothing interesting about that.
No, it's so boring, really.
It's boring. So how do you make your own story, right? Turn those things that you don't have into something amazing. It's not about where you start, it's about where you end up. So take that, turn it into a story. I think that's the first thing you would do after college. And then from there, like that becomes your brand. Like when I went to a graphic designer to design my brand, I told him my story. I said, I'm just your classic girl next door, very simple kind of woman, but I have big dreams. But, just someone who works hard. That's the story we're going to run with. And that's the kind of like physical appearance for the brand as well that we're going to use it too.
Yeah. Wow. So why is fashion important, Annie?
Fashion is important because if you do not dress the part, people will judge you before you take a look, and they're not going to give you the credibility that you actually have, right? Like before I think I started working on my fashion sense only 3 years ago. Before that, I always said I have to work on my character. What's important is my experience, my skill, my education. Like, I want to work on what's inside. My personality is what matters. Like, I want that to show. But then at some point I realized, wait, before I open my mouth, people are going to judge me for who I am. They're going to place judgments, and that's going to undermine everything that I've worked so hard to build, right? So not only do I have to have what's on the inside, I also have to have what's on the outside. And when I looked in the mirror at like 25 years old, I'm looking in the mirror, I'm like, I don't see like a woman staring back at me. For some reason, I just still see the teenager that I was at 18. I felt like frumpy. You know, I was like, when am I ever going to look and feel like a woman? Why don't I feel that way? Even though I'm already 25, I have experience and I'm making money. I bought a house. Like, why is it that this person staring back at me in the mirror doesn't match my own perception of myself, right?
Yeah.
And I figured, okay, maybe it's because I haven't taken the time to develop a fashion sense. Like, prior to that, I thought fashion was something that naturally came to people. Like, you either had that sense of style or you didn't. You either knew how to dress yourself and pick nice clothes off the rack, or you didn't. And I thought, okay, there are so many things that I've worked on in my life that I have been able to change. Maybe fashion is something you can work on. Maybe it's something you can actually learn. So I went ahead and I paid an image consultant $3,000 to teach me how to dress myself, basically. And it worked. It worked. She told me what kind of colors looked nice on me. She put like 2,000 swatches up against my face to see which shades looked the nicest on me. Jewel tones, dark jewel tones, but like also really like vibrant colors look nice on me. That gave me a much easier time to go shopping, because I go in with my palette and I'm like, well, I can already see all the clothes on this rack don't work for me. So it saves me a lot of time when I go shopping. And she also gave me something called the fashion fit formula. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. You are a tailor, after all. This was like a system designed by tailors as well. And what she did was she measured all the different aspects of my body vertically, like my head proportion to the rest of my body and so on and so forth. And she basically told me all the points that my clothes should hit. Like, for example, my necklace should hit 1 inch below my breastbone, or my short sleeve hems should be 2 inches above my elbow. 3/4 sleeves should be 1 inch below the elbow. Knee length should actually be 1 inch below the kneecap. Like, different points that my clothes should hit. And she said, if I just follow this formula and get all of my off the rack clothes tailored to fit this formula, then everything I wear will look very, very classy, you know? So now I don't wear anything unless I take it to the tailor first to hem it to the right place. So then I don't look frumpy when I go out. So it makes a big difference. I get compliments everywhere I go from strangers. I notice people's heads turning. When I go into City Hall to do something, to fight a ticket maybe, people are smiling at me. You know, they want to talk to me. It makes a huge difference how people respond to me before I even open my mouth.
Oh, yeah, massive. I mean, I the number of times I'll go into like for a meeting with a client at their office, and you have security and all that kind of stuff, and very often I'll be up in their reception on their floor, and they'll be like, "Oh, you weren't announced," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I walked in and they just waved me through."
Yeah.
Right, but it's just because of how, I mean, if I'd gone in and said I'm a tailor, I'm here to see, then they would have been signing me in and checking my ID and stuff. Most of the time I kind of walk in and say hi, and they just assume that I'm probably some kind of rich investor client or something like that. I don't know.
You look the part. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is me casual today. So just imagine what I'm, kind
most
of
people wouldn't consider that casual, I swear.
This is true, especially now.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. It makes a huge difference. I kind of found the same sort of thing when I was in my early 20s, and I was just trying to break into the corporate world, and didn't have any money, so I had to go buy my clothes like really, really cheap. I was wearing like $20 shoes that literally crushed my feet and stuff, but they looked good, never mind how I felt inside them. But I kind of realized I had to do a little bit of faking it till I made it. Probably not quite the right word, because I've always had a sense of what looks good. And so, to what you were explaining with the kind of what do they call it? Tailored fit? No.
The fashion fit formula.
The fashion fit formula, yeah. So those are rules that do exist. We probably call it something a little bit different over here. But I've never ever gone in depth in that, because you can get a little bit I do everything on instinct, basically. So, when I have a client who walks in, it's like in that first 5 seconds, I already know what I want to do with them. I won't tell them straight away because I want more information. I want to get to know them. I want to get to kind of just hear how they speak, how confident they are or they aren't, and so on. But then usually by the time we get to the end of it, most of what I instinctively thought when I first saw them is what is going to come to pass by the end. But again, to go back to something you said at the beginning there when I asked the original question, which is so important, and I was going to josh around with you a little bit, and then I decided not to, because it's actually a serious point. Anyone who's younger that's listening to this, we're humans at the end of the day. We're instinctive creatures. And when it comes to anything that we're deciding to do, whether it's a relationship or we're buying a cup, he says, looking at the teacup that's in front of him, or we're picking out a kitten from a litter of kittens, we go on instinct and we go on what we fall in love with almost instinctively in the first few seconds. And when you translate that to a job interview type situation or an employment situation, when you walk in the room, when someone lays eyes on you for the first time, they've probably already made the decision as to whether they want to continue a conversation with you in the first 3 seconds.
Yeah, we love
right?
beauty. Beauty.
Yeah.
This is why you visit Rome. You see all these like marble statues. That's their concept of beauty, this obsession with aesthetics. Right? I think being politically correct these days, people don't want to offend. We say fat is curvy instead of just saying fat, right?
Yeah.
But you can't deny everyone will make that judgment instinctively, whether they want to talk to someone or not, simply based on their appearance. Like if I'm at Panera Bread, which I go to every week, and there's like homeless people standing outside, I don't want to talk to them. As much as I want to be compassionate and sympathetic to their situation, I don't feel safe just looking at them.
Yeah.
I literally feel like if I make eye contact, they might hurt me. Because people are crazy these days, especially in the USA. You don't know who might pull out a gun on you just for looking at them the wrong way, right? So that first impression really, really matters.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's amazing how many people I speak to who think that it isn't important. But then when you kind of look at where they're at, there's a reason for it.
They're not doing well. They're not doing well. Usually the people who keep saying, oh, looks aren't important, find out how much they make. You're not doing really well. It's been studied before. Attractive people make more money. But like, I honestly think, well, people say, oh, that's different, Annie. You're already pretty. But, if you look at the pictures of me back then, yeah, you could kind of see I have this natural prettiness to it. But I didn't enhance it. I didn't know how to do my makeup. I didn't know how to like buy the right clothes. Wasn't sure what haircut looked nice on me. So I didn't like really bring my natural beauty out to its like fullest appearance. I think a lot of people are actually, they have a natural beauty to them, but they also haven't put in the effort to look as attractive as possible. Like if you look at actors, famous actors and actresses today, they're so gorgeous and attractive. But if you look at photos of them from back then, they look average. They look average. The difference is they put a real effort into their appearance because they became famous. It's not because they did plastic surgery. No, it's like all the little things. That's why you see like an actress going out with just like a white shirt and blue jeans. Why does it look so put together? It's just a white shirt and blue jeans. No, because that was tailored. That was tailored to fit her. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, you know, and I know there'll be some people listening that will be like, he's a tailor. He wants people to buy bespoke clothing. But no, right? Okay. And also we're in an age where people, I mean, although the suit is coming back over here in London, but, you know, people are wearing casual or smart casual a lot more and so on. And what I say to people is, you know, you don't have to buy a suit. You don't have to be spending thousands of dollars or pounds on bespoke clothing and so on, or even designer off the rack clothing. But if you put the work in to kind of work out what your style is, what you're comfortable in, and what you could be wearing to just turn the notch up, just that small amount that's enough to give you an edge. If you put the work and preparation in to build your wardrobe in that way, so that when you get dressed in the morning, actually it's really easy because you've got I mean, I'm betting for you it's really, really easy because you know what you like. You know what colors work for you.
Today it's easy.
Today it's easy, but you've put the work in, you see. And just look like, when you step out the front door, just look like you thought about what you put on. Because someone who shows that level of consideration has got the capacity and the capability to show a level of good consideration for anything that you might be asking them to do in a potential job role or whatever it is that they're there to see you for, right?
Yeah. And it's not just that. It's like once you look the part, people are happy to introduce you to others as well. I have found that like after I started working on my appearance, it's like, oh, I want to introduce Annie to so-and-so. Because like when you look good, you make other people look good. The person who made the introduction. That also makes a huge difference as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, we really went to town there, didn't we? Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for that, Annie. So obviously the book is second book, primary focus right now. What's next?
What's next? I've just been working on promoting this book. Just started on September 20 to promote it through podcasts. So I'm getting on 500 podcasts over the next 12 months. Already booked on 80, and you were podcast number 36.
Wow.
Yeah, you can imagine how much time I'm spending just on podcasts, doing like 2 to 3 interviews a day. Just on Tuesday, I was doing 6. Wipes me out. But I'm expanding more than just like podcasts. I want to get this book into like mainstream as well.
Yeah.
I think I'll find a way, because what I did was I asked ChatGPT to give me like 50 different ideas to market a book and make it a huge bestseller that sold millions. And so I have 50 ideas. Podcast was just one of them. I'm going to flesh out all of the different streams into the Annie Yang financial empire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. It was, but you know, I was reading something someone posted on Instagram, and this lady has now quit her full-time job, and her full-time job now is basically giving Instagram coaching. But she talks about how she did it and how she got such a big following in only 10 months. And she said it's because she decided that's what she was going to do, that nothing else mattered, that she wasn't going to pay attention at the beginning to the fact that it was such a slow burn and that her posts weren't getting much engagement and so on and so forth, because she was building towards something. She'd done, so it's like one of my recent guests, Beate Chalet, who is an awesome individual. I think you guys would get on really well as well. I think Beate is she's based in LA actually, but it doesn't matter. And Beate said it was like the burning of the ships for her with the way that she built her business.
What do you mean?
Well, you just, so, you know, it's a bit like when, you know, people originally were traveling to far and distant lands, and they would burn their ships so that there was no turning back. Right. So I think someone who discovered America at some point, because I'm not sure it was Christopher Columbus, that maybe somebody turned up here before. Oh no, all the people that went to Mexico and discovered the Aztecs and stuff.
Yeah.
My history is really crap, as you can tell.
Mine is as well. I don't know.
Oh, okay, fine. So we're both looking really confused.
Right.
So apparently, Annie, in the old days, there were people that would travel around the world and they would explore new worlds. But when they got to the shore, they would burn their ships so that there was no going back. And it's a bit like that with the decision that you've made with the book. You've burnt your ships. There's no going back. You're all in on this to the point where you've taken the time, all of 5 seconds with ChatGPT, to find out the 50 best ways to get this thing out there, promoted, and make it one of the best-selling books in its category in the entire world. Like the girl on Instagram whose name I can't remember, who's now built up such a massive following because she burnt her ships and she decided to go all in on Instagram. That's all she was going to do, because that's what she wanted to do and that's what she believed in. She believed so passionately in how she was going to help other people to. And then Beate's story, young immigrant mother from Germany, found herself in the United States, $134,000 in debt, burnt her ship. She could have just said at the first sign of trouble in the States, screw this, I'm taking my kid and I'm going back home to Germany. But she burnt her ships. She stuck it out. She found a way through, and eventually she built a business that one of Bill Gates' companies bought from her for millions of dollars. She sold out.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, it's an amazing story.
Amazing.
You'd love it. So anyway, back to you, because that's why we're here. You've burnt your ships and you're going all in on it. Because I asked you what's next. You're like, nah, sod that. We're still on the book. This is I love that.
Yeah, I got to sell this book. I mean, well, it's also these voices I hear. It's my calling. They said, well, no one else is going to not just write the book, but also market, promote, and sell the book. They're not willing to put in the work like you are going to do. I said, okay. So I have a 50-page marketing plan. I'm just executing it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. I'm going to introduce you to some more people whose shows you should be on for sure. So we'll get to that. So everybody listening who's like, oh my God, she's amazing, where do I get her book? Guess what? You can find it. It's called The 5-Day Job Search by Annie Margarita Yang. You can go to Annie's website, annieyangfinancial.com. I'm also going to post the Amazon links, and it's all the usual bookstores, right? Barnes and Noble out there. I can't think of anybody else.
One thing is, for your audience, for a limited time only, if they buy it on annieyangfinancial.com and add the 5-day job search to their shopping cart for a limited time only with the coupon code Taylor, TAILOR, they can get 10% off the signed paperback copy. Any other place you won't get it signed, but only directly from me, it can be signed.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you so much. Awesome. There you go. So get a 10% discount, free shipping, signed paperback copy of the 5-Day Job Search. Order on annieyangfinancial.com and enter the code Taylor, TAILOR, and jobs are good. And Annie, thank you so much for today. Have you had fun?
Yes. Thank you so much, Roberto. This is a real conversation, and you're really interesting, I have to say. I actually want to learn more from you rather than you learn from me with your 111 Google reviews, and apparently you're an award-winning tailor as well. I mean, you're quite accomplished yourself as well.
Anytime. Let's make sure that we stay connected after this. I would love to have you back on as well, especially after you've done podcast interview number 80. So when you manage to pick yourself back off the floor from that, then we'll catch up, because I'd love to see how this is progressing. And just keep checking in on your journey as well. But anything I can do to help, honestly, feel free. Sorry. Another one.
You have two? Oh.
This is Bailey. He appears almost every episode. He's a rescue dog.
Oh,
He's cool, huh? He's also handsome. If he was ugly, I wouldn't pick him up and
I
show him
think
to you,
so.
which
Yeah,
basically proves
I
your
like the
point.
hair and the ears as well.
Yeah. Okay, you dummy. Get lost. So yeah, Annie, thank you so much. Let's keep in touch. Get you back on the show, and you and I will also just keep in touch anyway. So anytime, anything you want to ask me, anything I can help with, just go right ahead.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you all so much for joining Annie and I on this episode. Do not forget, we are on Instagram at Tailoring Talk Podcast. I'm still trying to figure out the point. But anyway, it's another place for you to communicate with the show. And you know I love feedback, so DM me or email me at tailoringtalkpodcast@gmail.com. Remember to subscribe, rate, and review. So important if you enjoyed this episode. Leaving a review means that the algorithms do their thing and Annie's story is served to more and more people. And you can also click the share button in your play to send this episode on to people you know who might get some help or be inspired by Annie today, who couldn't be. And if you're enjoying Tailoring Talk and want to support the show, you can do so at the links in the show notes. Have a great week. Be good to each other, and I'll see you on the next one.